It's time for Zeb at the Ranch with your host, Zeb Bell, and newsworthy and noteworthy John Ellis. This podcast will always be brutally honest with integrity and honesty and without low-class, no-class cursing that's in vogue today with illiterate politicians. Now, Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh my, it is Wednesday, and that means podcast day for Zeb at the Ranch, episode 48, God Bless America. And God bless families that still believe this is the greatest country ever in the world. Thank you so much. Last week I had a couple of quotes, and I'm going to do the same thing this week. I've got so much information I want to share with you. If you vote for a Muslim for any elected office in this country, you are a traitor, and I firmly believe that. I'm going to be very sticky about what's happening in this election with the DSA and all the other people that are trying to run for political office to change and throw away the values of this country. And one that was put to me by Laura Loomer. I shared this with John before we started the podcast this afternoon. Mosques all over America are being used to stockpile military-grade rifles, grenades, knives, and explosives to arm millions of military-age Muslim men and illegal alien invaders. John, your comment on that quickly before I introduce you.
Yeah, like I said, 3 months ago or 6 months ago, I probably would have given you a hard time on that, but I've learned a little bit since then. It's not so much a religion as it is a political ideology.
There you go. Very well stated.
A very evil one, I might add.
Yep, yeah. And it's going to get worse.
Yep.
It's going to get worse. I'm happy. I really am happy. I've got a smile on my face like a Cheshire cat because today I've got a chance to turn back the clock and the calendar and welcome a dear old friend, emphasis on old, to the podcast. And that's, of course, he's known as Dr. History. And he's also known literally all over the world for his historical and sometimes hysterical stories of the Old West, like Naked Mountain Men and everything. And he's going to be here in just a few minutes, and we're going to welcome Dr. History. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then our very popular segment of Why Not God with Pastor Alex Lissow back in Tennessee will be visiting about evil Satans like Hassan Piker. You know, just when you think humanity can't go down lower than the basement, somebody like him, they dig more through the cement. This guy's terrible, along with Zoran Mondami and other Muslims trying, yes they are, to take over America. With that being said, I'm a little hesitant to have John do the Libertarian Minute for this afternoon, but good afternoon to John Ellis and his listening family. Go ahead.
Well, today we're going to be talking about coercion, persuasion, and tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not talking about the fake tolerance that the liberals embrace, tolerant for everyone except patriots, heterosexuals, men, Caucasians, Jews, Christians, etc. I'm talking about true tolerance, where people are free to say what they believe without being harassed, canceled, or threatened with bodily harm if you don't agree with them. Now, Zeb recently said that tattoos are ugly.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah. My oldest daughter frequently listens to Zeb's podcast and heard his opinion. She has several beautiful tattoos, and her husband is mostly covered in them. If they followed the playbook of today's cancel culture, they would be shouting in Zeb's face with a bullhorn in order to silence him,
yes,
while demanding that I no longer associate with him or else.
Oh, boy.
However, I'm blessed to have children who embrace rightful liberty and can instead respond as depicted in this tongue-in-cheek picture declaring tattoos are stupid.
I bet I don't get a Thanksgiving invite,
I think on the contrary, Zeb, these guys would love you, and I know you'd love them. My son-in-law is demonstrating a perfect example for America to follow today. Stop being chronically offended, using coercion to silence someone you don't agree with. Instead, try to use persuasion to change what others believe. You might even learn something new. It's time to put the sniper rifles down and stand up for freedom of speech, even if we don't like what someone is saying.
And the key to the whole story is, and you and I, to be transparent, we talked about this prior to the podcast today, is differences of opinion, differences of the methodology as to how you want to state certain things, viewpoints, etc. and without getting mad.
Right.
And God bless your son-in-law and your daughter, even
Yeah.
though I'd love to go have Thanksgiving, but I wasn't invited. And I just really appreciate their being open and honest and forthright and telling you about the tattoos.
They're wonderful. You know, Zeb, I have been so blessed with my son-in-laws. I just love these young men. They're great people, and they both believe in rightful liberty, and they take good care of their families. They're responsible Americans. They're good examples for everybody, I think.
If I get invited, here's what I'll do. I will go down, and I'm not going to have a permanency to this tattoo, but I will have a tattoo of an American flag "In God We Trust" on my forehead.
Absolutely beautiful.
It will be washable, however.
I get that, man. Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. I told you what's on the program for today, and right now we're going to have a little changing of the chairs like they do over in Britain, changing of the guard. However, the one son and his daughter, the daughter-in-law and the wife are not going to be invited to any changing of the guard. I want to remind everybody I'm creating a brand new group called the Gray Wolf Pack. Yep, now listen to that name, the Gray Wolf Pack. Us old gray-headed seniors are willing to step up and fight for this country, our Constitution and values, and I'm going to be very vocal and use whatever vehicle I can to help destroy the democratic socialists of America. Now, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to cough. Stand by. There. I hit the mute button, and we're back. I think I missed it the first time. I want you to send me any notices or information you can about being a member of our Gray Wolf Pack. Call me on my cell phone, 208-312-2976, or go to zebettheranch@hotmail.com. I'd love to hear your ideas. The Gray Wolf Pack, fighting for America. Wow, I'm right now honored. This brings back and turns back the clock a little bit with this smiling face on the other side of the desk, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb.
It's not morning.
That's afternoon, but hey.
You haven't changed a bit.
I haven't. I don't know what time of day it is. Not even sure what day it is.
We're going to be lighthearted as can be on this. Man, I miss your program that we used to have on my radio program.
About 14 or 15 years of every week, we had about 550 stories, podcasts that were on my podcast, the Dr. History podcast. But I was thinking about this on the way out here, Zeb. When we started this, it was you said, "Okay, Ken, I want you to come on my show and do about a 7 or 8 minute segment."
Yeah.
Then it was 10 minutes. Then it was 15 minutes. And then when we ended, it was like 20 or 25 minutes?
We're pretty close to a full half hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've also thought about the chain of events that have happened over the years.
Yeah.
Number one, you nicknamed me Dr. History, which
did.
has stuck, by the way.
Hopefully not in the mud.
Some people don't know my real name. But
do you want your real name out in front of the public, or are you afraid of pickets in your front lawn?
I'm good. My neighbors are good. So I thought about, because of you and John, I've been invited to speak at on many different occasions.
Yeah.
To service clubs, church clubs, school teachers, to school children. And I don't know if you remember this, but a good friend of mine, him and his wife were teaching English in China, making their students listen to us, which may or may not have been good, to learn English. And
you went there.
Yes. And then, so they think I'm this great American historian. So I get invited over to China to speak in Beijing at Peking University.
Yeah.
And, I spoke and I was told certain things not to say because of it being in China. And, we have a way of being humbled. Okay. So after I spoke to this audience of students, they all came up, rushed the stage and wanted my autograph. And, I'm thinking, I'm a pretty important guy.
Yeah, you are.
Well, then later my friend told me, we told our students if they get your autograph, we'd give them 10 extra points.
But it was so nice, and you came back from that trip, and the students had given a little teak wood container for business cards to me.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? You
Yeah.
presented that to me. Yeah.
And just an amazing students in China. I loved them.
We were listened to all over the world
Yes.
on that Dr. History
At
segment.
one point, there were like 65 different countries.
Yeah.
And during COVID, we got up to, on my podcast, up to 350,000 downloads.
Yeah.
During COVID. So
It was so much fun, and it took place by almost accident.
it did.
I was putting together that talk show and changing the transition to more like a news magazine, if you will.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, oh man, who could I talk to? And I talked to a couple people, and they said, that you, Ken Turner, really are involved in history of the Old West and everything. And I remember the call. I really do. And I said, this is Zeb Bell, and I'd like to have a segment on history and everything. And I dubbed you Dr. History, and it stuck.
It did.
And it was good for both of us.
Well, and I was still working at the time, but I would call in.
Yeah.
And then after I retired, I was able to drive out here for the last, 10 years.
Oh, easy, yeah.
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 But I'm a history lover. And I think it is so important for our youth to know the history.
Amen.
And you and I have been very careful to be historically accurate.
Yep.
When you think about the the Madison, the Washingtons, the Benjamin Franklin, all these people that had so much to do with writing the most sacred, the Constitution. So you and I don't have a lot of tolerance for non-patriotic situations.
I'm glad you said it that way, because my tolerance level is even less today than it was when we were doing the program.
Yeah.
As John can tell you, John Ellis sitting here, the people that want to just literally go in and scrap our
Right.
Constitution
Yeah.
and scrap the remnants of our great history from 250 years ago.
Take down the statues.
And take down the statues and just have a rewrite and remake of America. I just mentioned it a moment ago. I'm starting that gray wolf pack to where we're going to fight back and say, no, you're not going to do that.
But Zeb, we have a lot of good, strong Christian people, patriotic people. I mean, for example, over here, folks, I know you haven't heard of this, but there's a bridge called the Perrine Bridge in Twin Falls.
Right.
And here, several times, they have stretched a great big American flag hanging right there over the Snake River.
Right.
And I mentioned we just had the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. And when they do the Pledge of Allegiance, they walked out, I don't know how many people holding this flag that had to be, 80 feet by 40 feet.
Oh, beautiful.
And they stretched it out, and we had the national anthem. So I'm proud of the people that are standing strong, that are willing to step up and be a voice for this great country.
And this all kind of alludes back to the beginning of this segment, Dr. History. And we went into all kinds of historical and, yes, hysterical stories, whether it was the Mountain Men, or whether it had to do with independence with Paul Revere, or whether it had to do with funny cowboy stories or Custer's Last Stand. I'm just kind of groping for some of the stories that we did. But everything we did on that segment, you were always prepared. You always had your notes, and I did everything I could to dismantle it.
Yes, Zeb, you did. I remember those. And if I flubbed up on a word, you jumped right on it.
I tried to cover it up and make sure that you felt at home, but it always ended up to where I elaborated on it.
Yes, and I noticed that there were times that, for example, folks, I'd be sitting here trying to do a serious story.
Yes.
And there would be a fly buzzing around Zeb's head. And he would be trying to hit that fly, and I'm trying to maintain my composure on the radio.
Yeah, and every now and then Ken would go, and there'd be a flop right there by his head, and I got him, Ken. It's okay, you're fine now. But thinking about some of the stories, like going back to the Mountain Men and all this, you did a ton of research.
I did.
This.
You should see my den at my home. I've got, I'm going to guess, 150 books that I have taken stories from. I had a whole bunch of the old the Frontier Times magazines and True West. So I wanted to be historically accurate and fair. So I tried to make sure that what I said was accurate and true.
What, in your opinion, were some of the most, I don't know, interesting stories that you went into and we put on the radio?
Well, let me just start off with one that you'll enjoy.
Oh, good.
Up in Oakley, about 20 miles from here, during Prohibition, they used to take the ill-gotten liquor and store it in the bank vault.
Really?
Yeah.
Good place for it.
Yeah. And when they were
That
done
banker was loaded.
in more ways than one. And so when they were done with the trial and one thing or another, they had to get rid of the evidence.
I see.
And so there was one winter evening up there in Oakley, which was a kind of a booming town at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The judge and the sheriff were out in the alley with cases of liquor, and they were opening them up and pouring them into the snow.
Just into the snow?
Yeah, just into the. Well,
can you imagine the fun the kids had making snow cones?
Zeb. You know, folks, he does that every time.
Old time.
He jumps in. Oh, so, okay, now back to my story.
Yes, sir.
They're dumping the liquor into the snow. A few people start gathering around, and they start looking, and they start watching. Pretty soon, they start making snowballs.
I knew it.
But instead of throwing them, folks, they were eating them, and the story says that good time was had by all.
You know, at that juncture, though, they had to be really careful that the neighborhood dogs hadn't been through there.
Well, that's a good, and cats. Yeah. Could have been a happy night that night in Oakley, Idaho.
I thought it was tequila.
Yeah. But, you know, those are the stories that people remember of our history.
So let me, just a couple of stories that I'm going to.
He's on a roll, folks. Look out.
On a roll.
He's a bowling ball going down the alley
That's
right now.
So I'm going to talk about cattle drives for a minute.
Good,
okay,
good.
So
we can both relate to that.
Folks, cattle drives, of course, there were many, many cattle drives that went north into the Dakotas and to Montana.
Yep.
And one of the big fears was, of course, a stampede.
Right.
And there were times, folks, when a lot of times it would happen during the night. Sometimes all it took was a horse just his hoof hitting a rock. And that's all it took.
Yep.
The herd would be on its feet and going. And here you've got cowboys trying to stop and turn this herd. And unfortunately, sometimes a cowboy would be in the middle of that and he would be gone.
That would be it.
That would be it. Yeah. They would find parts of him and maybe his horse, sad things like that. However, there were some other things. For example, they would come to quicksand in some of the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have a herd go through several times in the same place, but the next herd that comes through, you'd have some cows get stuck in the quicksand.
Really?
So what would happen is there may be a dozen cows still out in the quicksand. So the cowboys, 4 of them, would go out, get on each side of the cow, and they would dig down real fast by the leg. They'd pull the leg up and tie it up. Then they'd do the back leg, tie it up. Then they'd push the cow over on one side and pull that leg up and then the other leg. So the legs were tied up next to its body and even the tail. And then they would put a rope around the cow's neck and just bobsled him out of the quicksand.
Who determined the volunteerism of going into the quicksand and putting the rope on the cow? I think it was
if you were low man on the totem pole.
I see.
Now, there was one particular time this cow would not come out of the quicksand.
I see.
They had 2 or 3 cowboys with ropes around. This cow wouldn't budge. Finally, they hooked the chuck wagon to the cow.
This doesn't bode well.
And so 4 cowboys, the chuck wagon, and they gave it to it, and they pulled that steer out of the quicksand.
Oh, my.
Unfortunately, when he got out, he only had 3 legs. One of the legs had come loose, was down in the quicksand, and was still in the quicksand. So they had steak for dinner that night.
I was going to say that cow or that steer, whichever it was, had a lot more effort to go to Montana than the rest of them.
Well, on 3 legs.
Yeah.
Now, another thing they did, folks, and you may not know this, but the cowboys didn't necessarily take a bath every day.
No, okay. I take offense at that because I tried to take a shower in the morning and a shower at night.
But that's only in January, February, and March.
Well, we don't want to push it.
Okay.
Ivory soap is expensive.
That's true. So they would get fleas and ticks. Okay.
Yeah, do I have fleas and ticks?
So what they would do if they came to a river, the cowboys would take all their clothes off and find a great big anthill.
What?
They would throw their clothes on the anthill. Then they would take some soap, go down and scrub themselves off real good in the river. And they would come back to the anthill and get a stick or something and pull their clothes off the anthill because the ants ate the ticks and the fleas.
You got to be kidding
No,
me.
that's what they did. Now,
what kind of study in your study at home
this is true
pointed
stories.
this out?
So the only thing, Zeb, is
You're a sick man.
you need to make sure you shook out all the ants.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the next day, if you're riding along and you have a few passengers on with you, it could be a little uncomfortable.
Well, why not wash the clothes in the river?
That's a good. I wondered about that too. You know? But still, that might be an ant or two that hung on, precariously.
Well, it wasn't that they didn't want to take a bath.
Yeah,
It was just the necessity of having to ride all day and possibly all night.
Yeah.
And by the way, too, their body odor did keep away the mosquitoes.
and if they went into town, same thing. So now,
funny though, some towns welcome that smell.
Yeah. So I'm just going to throw in a few small stories. Black Jack Ketchum.
I remember him.
So
he was from around here.
Nope, he wasn't. He was down in like Arizona, Texas area.
That's right. What was the guy that was up here? Black Bart?
Diamondfield Jack.
Diamondfield Jack.
Yeah.
That's right.
So Black Jack Ketchum got caught. He was due to be hung.
Uh-huh.
And so they built the scaffold and they tested the scaffold with a bag of sand, to make sure it was going to work.
Right.
So they took him out that morning and he was kind of belligerent and kind of
Well, wouldn't you be?
he wasn't humble at all, put it that way. So they put him up on the scaffold and they dropped the dealie, the
sandbag.
The platform.
Oh, what do they call that thing? The trap door.
The trap door.
Yeah.
So they drop the trap door and he falls, but he falls a little farther than they had planned on.
This doesn't sound right.
And his head popped off.
Oh. Do that again. Oh.
And so, back then a hanging was a social event. So you had these people, wives, women, children, all there to watch this. And so here's his head.
It's really going to be tough on those kids watching that head roll out in front of the
grandstand. And it kind of comes rolling down and stares up at some people.
Oh, my goodness.
So here's the weird part of this story, Zeb.
It's going to get weird?
It is. Yeah. That's the good part. So a few years back, maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe 20, the Boy Scouts were camping down in that area where Black Jack Ketchum hung around.
Oh,
all right. Now, there was a cave where he a lot of times was known to hang out. And the scoutmaster said, you guys stay here and camp and sleep. And well, about 5 of the boys got up during the night and they went and took their sleeping bags over by the cave where Black Jack Ketchum used to hang out.
I'm getting the quivers.
Okay. So, middle of the night, this young boy wakes up and he sees a figure with guns and he's shooting, and then he comes over and he's standing over the sleeping bag of this boy still shooting, and he looks down at the boy and he says, "You shouldn't be here." And then he left. Okay. Now, the next day, the boys are going home. They go into a local store and there's a picture of Black Jack Ketchum there. And this boy says, by the way, the next morning, he told him about this, what he saw. Well, this picture that was in this store, he said, "That's the man I saw that came through camp." There were some shell casings that had dropped down onto his sleeping bag.
Oh.
He picked up the shell casings and took them to a gun expert. The gun expert said, "These shells, these casings are from the 1800s.
I have to leave and go to the bathroom now. Is that really true?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the story of Black Jack Ketchum. But
he was the one that lost his head.
Lost his head, yes.
Yeah.
Now, folks,
did they ever put him all together before they buried him?
I think they threw his head in.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good.
Yeah. But folks, the Oregon Trail came right through where we are right now.
Exactly.
And out east of us, there's a place called Raft River.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the California Trail takes off from the Oregon Trail.
Right.
Now, there was a lot of people that traveled together for, a couple of thousand miles to get to that point. And so some of them were going to go to Oregon, some were going to go to California. And there was one family, they couldn't decide whether to go to California or to go to Oregon.
Really?
So when they got to the split where you had to choose, they let the oxen choose which way to go. And the oxen chose to go left, so that's where they went.
They went to California.
They went to California.
Wow.
So that's...
And when you think about that, there's a lot of visibility left today.
Right.
As to those trails and the landmarks and a lot of things that are written about.
Yeah, right here, not very far, there's still tracks that you can see over here at Milner, tracks from the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, folks, the Oregon Trail in some places was just a narrow trail. In other places, it was a mile wide.
Well, right there, I'm going to interrupt you and say that a lot of people have the misconception that it was just follow the same, like you said, mundane trail, etc. Right. But they had to spread out and make it much wider because of the grazing availability for the grass for the cattle.
Exactly. So it could be a mile wide in places.
Yeah.
But it was strewn with people's stuff that they found that it was too heavy. They didn't need it, so they would just cast it aside. And, unfortunately, a lot of people died actually not so much from Indians as from accidental gunshot wounds.
Well, let me ask you this, though, before you get into the gunshot wounds. Do people realize the toughness and the tenacity these people had to do every day to get up off the ground or out of the wagon and walk 15 to 20 miles a day and do the same thing day after day after day? They were tough.
Well, and you think of the wind, the rain, the rivers that might be flooded.
Amen.
And, folks, coming across where it's dry, the wagon wheels would dry out and shrink. So the metal that went around the wagon wheels sometimes would come off. So what they would do to prevent that, when they came to a river or a stream, they would stop in the middle of the river and let the water soak into the wood so it would expand, so the metal around the rim would stay put where it's supposed to.
Did you, in your research, come to appreciate the great mindset that these people had? Their ability to meet obstacles and overcome them.
Right. And see, the Whitmans and the Spaldings were the first ones to take a wagon over the Blue Mountains into Washington, Oregon.
Weren't they feuding at one point?
Yeah, they didn't get along real well.
Yeah, kind of like you and I.
Yeah. But what happened is when they got to Fort Hall, that wagon was not in good shape. And it actually, by the time they got to Boise, it was down to two wheels on my wagon.
Really?
Yeah. But the mountain men and the trappers, they did not want people coming into the Rockies, into the Mountain West, because they figured it would ruin the trapping. So the Hudson's Bay Company, the American Fur Company, they did not want civilization to come out this way. But by the time the Spaldings and the Whitmans got out here, then people realized, okay, we can take a wagon all the way to Oregon or all the way to California.
Wow. Once they're on the trail, did anyone have back riders going back down the trail, giving information to families, or perhaps passing and disseminating mail to the people back east?
Yes. In fact, what they did, a lot of times they would use a buffalo head skeleton, just the bone. And they would put letters sometimes in the buffalo head.
Really?
And so people coming by would go look and say, okay, this is for us, or... there were travelers that would head back east and would take letters to Independence or St. Louis or wherever to try to for communication.
But you did a lot of stories about mountain men.
Yes.
Some that had clothes on and some that didn't.
Do you want me to tell you one?
Go ahead.
Folks, Zeb is a little bit kind of a demented. I don't know.
You're being kind.
That's true. That's true. Okay, I'm going to tell you about John Coulter.
Yeah, John Coulter.
Okay, so John Coulter and his companion named Potts.
Potts.
They were up on the Madison River, up into the Montana area out here, and they were in their canoes. And they came around a bend in the river, and there was a whole tribe of Indians on shore.
Uh-oh.
And they were motioning for them to come ashore.
Would you?
Well, let me keep going here.
Okay.
So Potts, he decided, no, I'm not coming ashore. And he pulled up his rifle and he shot an Indian.
Okay, now wait a minute. That doesn't sound like Potts was real smart.
No.
Yeah.
And so here's John Coulter thinking, oh, well.
We're in it now.
Yeah. And so they took Potts and they weren't kind to him. And
in what regard?
Well, they kind of tore him apart a little bit.
I see.
He didn't last too long. So here's John Coulter. He's ashore, and he sees that they're having a little powwow, the Indians are. And then he notices that some of the younger braves are taking off their leggings, taking off anything that might encumber them to be able to run fast.
Uh-huh.
And one of the older Indians looks at John Coulter and he waves to him like, go, like move, like get it going. By the way, by now, folks, he is now buck naked.
John Coulter.
Yes,
Yeah.
not the Indian.
Okay.
So John Coulter, barefoot, buck naked, and this Indian is telling him to run. And John Coulter realizes, okay, this is going to be a race, and my life is going to be the prize of whatever happens here.
Oh, my.
So he takes off running. Now, again, you're going over rocks, sagebrush, cactus,
Thistles, you name it.
everything. And he is running for his life, literally.
Oh.
So he must have been a pretty good runner because pretty soon he was out distancing all of the Indians except one.
One guy.
One guy was catching up to him.
Oh.
And just as that Indian caught up with him, John Coulter turned, grabbed the Indian, threw him to the ground. He had a spear that he broke in half, and he dispatched the Indian, grabbed his buffalo robe and the half a spear, and kept running.
Uh-huh.
He ran about 5 miles and still being chased by the other Indians. So he comes to a river, and he jumps in the river, and there's a beaver dam there. So he goes underwater, comes up under the beaver dam, and is able to get up inside the beaver dam on dry ground. Now the Indian,
Don't tell me he gets attacked by a beaver and that's the end of the story.
No beavers, just the dam. And so
those damn beavers.
those beavers. So the Indians are looking for him. They know he's got to be here somewhere.
Yeah.
And so they're standing on top of the beaver dam and looking, and they don't find him. And surprisingly, they didn't start the dam on fire, or he'd have been in trouble. So he waited all that night and into the next day.
He stayed in the water?
Well, he was up on inside the beaver dam,
Oh.
up on dry ground where the beavers would hang out,
Yeah.
because they didn't stay on the water all the time. So eventually he came out and he was able to make it his way, I think it was around 200 miles, trying to eat grubs and berries and
Whoa.
anything he could, and he survived. And that's the story of John Coulter.
Did he make something for his feet? Man, that sounds like it was tough.
I don't know that he did, but
my.
and there was a movie years ago, and I think it was called Coulter's Run, and I
Really?
can't remember who was in it, but yeah, there was a movie many years ago about that.
Well, who was the mountain man that you and I were talking about on the phone the other night? And I was trying to remember. They
Osborne.
made a movie called A Man in the Wilderness. And he was left for dead because he'd been attacked and mauled by a bear.
Well, we talked about Hugh Glass.
I think that was it, yeah.
So do you want to talk? Do we have time to talk about him?
We'll take the time.
Okay. So Jim Bridger, 19 years old.
Yeah.
He's with a group of trappers. Major Henry is in charge of this, probably 30 trappers,
Uh-huh.
and they're headed to the Yellowstone area.
Right.
So Hugh Glass was kind of a crotchety old guy, but kind of ornery. But
Kind of a autobiography about you.
I was going to say you. So they're going along. They've gone, I don't know, several weeks, and they're up into towards the Yellowstone area, Montana. And Hugh Glass is out in front because they're trying to hunt if they find a deer or elk or, to feed the. And so as he's going along through the brush, he breaks into a little clearing, and there's a stream nearby. But in this clearing, all of a sudden is a mama bear and 2 cubs.
Oh, boy.
Now, the mama bear is not real excited to see a white man, and so he takes off after Hugh Glass. Hugh brings his gun up to shoot, but he doesn't get a shot off in time. So this bear, and you don't want to get between a bear and her cubs.
Mm-mm.
She starts tearing into him and chewing on him and just ripping things and on one thing another, and he starts yelling. And so,
Well, wouldn't you?
yes. And so some of the other guys, they come through the brush, and as they get close, one of the bear cubs goes after one of the other mountain men.
Oh,
So they shoot that one, and then they get over to where Hugh Glass is, and they see this big old mama bear. And so about 8 of them shoot this bear, and he finally falls down on top of Hugh Glass.
oh my.
So they go
So
over
we
there.
got about a 600-pound bear laying
Yeah,
on him.
on this guy. So they pull the bear off, and here's Glass. I mean, just a bloody mess, just
Oh.
bad. And so they kind of take him over, and they lay him next to a tree and on a buffalo robe. And Major Henry sees that, well, he's not going to make it through the night.
Yeah.
Well, he makes it through the night. And
Did they leave him?
Zeb, what did I tell you about?
Well, I'm really getting excited about poor old Hugh.
Folks, there's so many times Zeb will just take my thunder.
Well, I'm lightning.
Yeah. Okay, so they lay him out all night long. He's moaning and groaning. Well, you can imagine. I mean,
Well,
no
yeah.
anesthesia. So he's laying there all night long, and the next day they think, well, okay, he'll probably die today. Well, he doesn't. The next night, moaning and groaning all night long again. So, and remember, there's about 30 trappers here, and they've got to get to the hunting grounds.
Yeah.
And plus, there's a lot of Indians roaming around this area at this time. So they don't want to stick around. So Major Henry says, okay, I need 2 volunteers to stay with him until he dies. Okay.
All this encouragement.
Yes. And so Major Henry says, tell you what, I'll give $80 to the 2 men that will stay with him. So $40 each, which is about a half a year's pay back
my,
then.
Yeah.
So Jim Bridger finally volunteers, and he's only 19. He's just a young buck, just fresh into the country.
Yeah.
And the other guy, Fitzgerald, I believe was his name. And he's an older guy. He's been around the block, and he knows a lot about the hunting and everything. And so, but $80 is $80. So they stay with him, and everybody else leaves. So that night, of course, moaning and groaning. Next day, still alive, moaning and groaning. Second day, still. Third day, he's still alive. Well, Fitzgerald says, there's Indians around here. We're in danger. He's going to die. Let's just leave him.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Bridger regrets this to the day he died, but he said he got talked into it. So the thing is, if they catch up with Major Henry and they don't bring Hugh Glass's gun, his flint, his powder horn, his gear, they're going to say, well, where's his gear? He's dead, right? So they take all that and leave Hugh Glass with nothing but a buffalo blanket.
They weren't Boy Scouts.
No. And so Hugh Glass, by the time he realizes what happened, he's mad.
Duh.
He is furious because he knows that Fitzgerald and Bridger left him to die.
Oh, my.
So
he's all alone.
Yeah. So he starts crawling and gets to a little stream. He's able to drink water. He keeps crawling. There's some wolves have taken down a baby calf elk, and he's able to shoo them away, and he's able to gnaw on the raw meat of the calf that's dead. He eats berries and grubs. He crawls and finally survives. He makes it about 200 miles to a fort.
200 miles.
And, with just a buffalo robe. And anyway, so about 2 years later, Jim Bridger is in a fort, and I can't remember where. So he's standing outside, and it's kind of winter, it's kind of snowing a little bit, and he sees this figure coming through the gates of the fort.
Oh.
Kind of hobbling a little bit.
Hobbling a little bit?
Yeah.
He walked a lot worse than I do.
Walking slowly towards Jim Bridger.
Uh-oh.
And Then Jim Bridger realizes it's Hugh Glass.
What did he say?
And Hugh Glass is what Hugh Glass said.
Can you say that?
Probably not. Hugh Glass raises his gun because he's going to kill Bridger and Fitzgerald if he can find him. So anyway, so Jim Bridger says, well, Hugh Glass, you're alive. So it gets the attention of some of the other trappers, and they came running out and say, well, Glass, you old whatever, you're still alive.
Well, you really did a good job of erasing that.
And so he's going to shoot Bridger. And Major Henry comes out and says, no, nobody's going to do any shooting here. So he doesn't get to kill Bridger. Well, about another 2 years later, he's down into like Texas, Arizona area, and he goes into a fort, and here's Fitzgerald, but he has since joined the army, and it's against the law to kill a soldier. So he doesn't get to kill either one. Now, folks, I want to tell you something here. Zeb and I have talked about this a lot. Hollywood does not do justice historically. There's a movie that came out a few years ago called The Revenant.
Yes.
And it is not the way it ended. And I saw the movie. It's bloody and gory. And so if you ever watch that movie, know that that's not the way it happened.
We got about 4 minutes left. Do you want to tell us the ending?
Hugh Glass eventually died.
There again, though, to sum up, the stories that you portrayed on that show, Dr. History, you really went in depth and did a lot of study as to how tough these people really were.
So regarding Jim Bridger, over the years, he became probably one of the best scouts ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Kit Carson was good, but Jim Bridger was amazing. I mean, he could look at horse tracks and he could tell which tracks were his or somebody else's. He could look at the way a weed was bent. He could know what Indian tribe those hoof prints were from.
Wow.
He spoke what they call Western French.
Uh-huh.
He knew sign language. He knew about 8 different Indian languages, but he was an amazing scout. Again, he knew that if you saw horses in single file, wild horses, they were going towards water. If they were spread out, they had come from water. There's a bird, I think it's called the mud dauber. If he saw this bird flying and it had mud in its beak, he knew that it had been coming from water.
Wow.
If this particular bird didn't have a mud in its beak, it was going towards water. I mean, just things like that. And he also, when he was traveling, a lot of times he would look back behind him because he would memorize the territory. So if he had to come back that way, he knew, okay, this mountain was here, this valley here, this river. So he knew how to get around the mountains. That's how he survived.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
he also had a bit of a sense of humor when it came to telling stories. He tells that he's talking to one man, and the guy says, well, how long you been out here? And he says, well, you see that mountain over there? He says, when I first came out here, that was just a hill.
Ken, I'm going to have to jump in here.
I know.
And you got to promise me something.
What's that?
It's been such a great reunion on the podcast here. I want to have you back.
Okay.
We
We'll
could
do it
have
again.
more fun, and you can run me down and ridicule me more often the next
Okay.
time and everything. But I want to plug your book.
Thank you.
This man wrote a book called Coal Miner to Cowboy, and it's written by this man, Dr. History, Ken Turner. And I want to emphasize, I've read the book, and he even mentioned me in his book. I appreciate that. But how can they still get a copy
You
of
can
this
go to
book?
Amazon.
Okay.
It's on Amazon as the written book, an ebook, and also I actually went to Utah and recorded it as an audio book. And it's not really as professional as a lot of audio books, but I think you'll get the story.
You and I talked about that real quick, about doing the recording of an audiobook. That's
Yeah.
not easy.
No.
It's hard.
And folks, you're considered underprivileged if you have not read my book.
There you go. Ken, I wish you the very best. You're a dear, dear friend. And our coming together for Dr. History has been a blessing for me, and I hope for you. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. I appreciate
Come back.
You
Please
bet.
come back.
I will.
Amazing man, and I'm proud to call him my friend. And that, of course, is Dr. History. And we're going to have him back with more in the future. While he swaps chairs with our dear friend John, I want to say it again. I'm creating a group called the Gray Wolf Pack, and it's going to be about us gray-headed seniors that are willing to step up and fight for this country, our Constitution, and our values. And I'd like your thoughts about how we should set and establish this Gray Wolf Pack to help America. And give me a call on my cell phone, 208-312-2976, or email me at zebattheranch@hotmail.com. Don't forget, the Gray Wolf Pack. We're going to try to help save America. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, John's back in the driver's seat, and we say good afternoon to a dear, dear friend back in Tennessee, Pastor Alex Lissow, with the segment called Why Not God? Hello, my friend. How are you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. We got a storm going on here. Fortunately, the internet has stayed on, which is not usual. And when we get these storms, everything shuts down. And but today it seems to be withstanding. Sometimes, when you pick an internet service, you need to really find out how strong they can be when you need them. But other than that, I'm excited to be with you today. And I had some pretty good activity today with my wife. I had to take care of her with a doctor, and they did a good job. And so we're home and resting and ready to talk about the things that we need to talk about.
Well, God bless you and your lovely wife, Barbara. I hope she can hear me. Barb, God bless. I hope you're doing really, really well. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is that you and I have stated this on this podcast many times and on the radio program prior to this. We're both pretty much the same age, and I am shocked at my age to see, hear, and have to put up with people like Hassan Piker. This is the most un-American, anti-American person that I've seen come down the pike in the last few years against America. He's 35 years old, just absolute trouble for America, with an anti-God culture, singing songs the other night that ridiculed and mocked Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk's assassination. What do you think about all this? This is happening in the United States of America, and nobody seems to be standing up and trying to stop this garbage.
Well, Zeb, he's not the only guy. I mean, this Hassan Piker's a 36-year-old fool. He's an antagonist. This guy is a 6'4" high miscreant. He's a mayhem looking for a place to happen. And I think that this individual, whatever his historical background, when you look at his name, Hassan Piker, you start to think about how did this guy become an American, and what in the world is he thinking with regard to the freedoms that he has to speak the way he speaks? And I was watching the news media the other day, and I guess you probably know Judge Napolitano. He's often on Newsmax as well as on Fox News. And he has this program on Saturday, and it's a kind of a repeat on Sunday as well, where he talks about the legal system and authorities, et cetera. And he really got after the president of the United States, talking about how the president is trying to find a way to make these people who speak in such hateful terms about America and about the Americans and against Christianity and all these kinds of things, and he wants to do something about it. And yet Napolitano spends more time defending the injustices of the justice system than he does standing up and saying there's a difference between right and wrong. Now, I look at things and I say, I need to obey the law because that's what required, and God requires it of us when you read the scriptures. But at the same time, God also requires us to be righteous people who stand up for good and proper conduct. And it just drives me crazy when we go to defend a system in the society that we live in, which defends what I would call, and we want to talk about free speech. And the thing that Napolitano is talking about is these people have the right to say the things, the ugly, unbearable, caustic things that they say, and it's their right under the Constitution of the United States. I don't believe when the Constitution was written, and I may be completely wrong here, but I don't believe the founders of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence established those things with the idea that it would be like it is today, with people who actually want to destroy our country and have the freedom to do that. They are creating, to me, they're creating a conflict of interest, and they're teaching people to be aggressive in their conduct against this country. And I don't appreciate it whatsoever.
Yeah,
I guess this guy Piker, I don't know where this guy Piker thinks he comes off.
Yeah, Pastor, that's one of our greatest strengths is our freedom. And it's also one of our weaknesses because people can say what they want. But I think back then there was a lot more common sense that went around than there is today, and a lot more love of your country. And they didn't realize people would be attacking that. But even so, we should be able to speak our opinion, but not call for the destruction of our country. Good heavens.
Well, I agree with that. I like to speak my opinion. You like to speak your opinion. Zeb speaks his opinion. There's a lot of people out there that speak opinions. But I think what has to come down here is, does it motivate people with the wrong thinking, like Robinson, who shot Charlie Kirk?
Yep.
And there's this guy, Dr. Abdul Saeed. I don't know if you've paid attention to what he's doing. He's running for the United States Senate. And he speaks against Christianity. He speaks against the whole system of way we conduct our lives in this country, profitability and capitalism. He speaks against all these things, and he wants to change everything in America. And again, these two guys, in my view, are products of an immigration system that has failed America in terms of bringing people on here who benefit and become citizens and want to strengthen our society, and instead they create havoc and dissension. And I, when I look at the scriptures, that's not what God wants us to be like.
Yeah. He
He wants us to find a way to get along with each other. He understands that we're going to have struggles and battles, and he tells us to walk away from those things because only the fools, and he doesn't call them fools, but he knows that these are people that are contrary to what is right and proper. And what confronts me, what bothers me the most, is when I hear the legal system and justices and people who are in the courts and in the system of justice in our country tell us that we have no right to stand up against these people. They have the freedom to say what they want. Well, I have the freedom to say what I want too.
Yep.
Amen.
But look across society. Look what's happening in our society. They're attacking people of faith. They're attacking people who want to speak conservatively and strong about good and bad, right and wrong. Look at what's going on in England. You can't even you can't sit over a beer with somebody in a pub and start to say something before you can get arrested for speaking out. I mean, I think we've lost our minds in our world today.
I just received this morning, as a matter of fact, from my dear friend Brigitte Gabriel with the Act for America campaign, and she sent me a notice about a conference calling Muslim Takeover of the United States. One of the speakers, supposedly, that's going to be at this conference is that gentleman, and I use that term loosely, that's running for that Michigan Senate seat, and that's Abdul El Sayed. He's going to be talking about the Muslim takeover of America. And he said, if 6 to 8 million Muslims unite in America, the country will come to us. Call me Islamophobic. Call me any doggone thing you want to, but I'm very concerned about this ideology and the Muslims in the United States.
I agree completely. And this Dr. Abdul, he's the Saeed. He speaks what I consider, he's a piece of work, this guy, because he's an anti-American, and I think that is a very mild reputation that he has.
Yeah.
Because how can you come to this country with the freedoms, the rights to become wealthy and be a medical doctor or whatever this guy is, and yet speak against the very society that gives you the freedom to become successful, and speak against all of those people who stand up for righteousness and truth? It bothers me that we've allowed, Zeb and John, what bothers me the most is we have been trapped. We've trapped ourselves in this years since our founding into a crazy immigration policies and socialist ideologies. We've trapped ourselves in a place where we can't really stand up and say, these people don't belong here, or without being attacked for fighting against the very thing that we believe in, and that's freedom of speech, the right to be. But again, freedom of speech is not to condemn people or threaten people to against life and liberty. It's the right to be able to express yourself. Why can't we express ourselves without being detrimental to the rest of society? I think Trump. I think, just to make a point, John, and then I'll shut up and let you say what you got to say. But I think Trump, and I think you've heard lately that he's attacking the immigration system and is doing some things to stop people from coming legally, even at this particular point in America. And America needs a new immigration program for sure, in my opinion.
Yep.
We need that program in place to take a look at the kind of people that are coming here, because do we want antagonists or do we want supporters of our nation?
I think you nailed it on the head with the whole idea of immigration. If you want to come into this country, you need to come here loving it or wanting to contribute to it, not hating it and trying to cause problems. And just to clarify, folks, I don't think any of us have a problem with someone coming from the Middle East. And it's easy to paint a broad stroke and say that we're Islamophobic because we hate everybody from the Middle East. That's not true. But the so-called religion of Islam is the danger here, not necessarily the people coming from the Middle East, because there's a lot of great people there, Christians, whatnot, that don't believe death to America, death to Israel.
I agree.
But, you know,
I recognize. I don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush, but these are the guys that are getting all the airtime.
Yep.
These are the guys that are influencers that need to keep their mouths shut.
well, and the thing is, this conference that Brigitte Gabriel writes about that's coming up, Imam Siraj Wahhaj, a former vice president of the Islamic Society of North America, told all Muslims in a speech, democracy will crumble and there will be nothing, and the only thing that will remain is Islam. You think I'm not Islamophobic? I don't want my America destroyed like that.
That's Islam. That's been the history of Islam since 610 A.D.
Yep.
I mean, Muhammad created this influential society, and then you've got, like John says, there are a lot of good Muslims out there, a lot of good faithful people who are working hard and want to do right, but there's this faction that seems to be in control. Look at Iran. Look at different parts of the Middle East. Hamas and those kinds of things. And I wonder how it is that we can tolerate that within our own society and call it a free society, because they're talking against all of our freedoms.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, Alex, what about the Hassan Pikers and the El Sayeds and the Zoran Mondamis, etc.?
You got it right the first time.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Pardon me. The verbal slip was correct.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this increase in its severity all across the United States, and the gullibility and the naivete of American citizens. They don't seem to think or realize how serious this is.
I agree with you. It's time for the gray wolf pack. We need them big and powerful. We need them standing together. We need them speaking out, because what we do is we listen to a lot of the garbage in media and across the, social media as well as news media. We're listening to all that garbage, and yet at the same time, you don't hear us standing up. There are a few that stand up and speak out, but we're overmatched, I think, because a lot of people don't want to speak out for fear of reprisal.
I'm going to ask you at this time, please, to give us our weekly prayer. There's a lot to pray for. There's a lot to really meditate on and ask for God's help. If you would please wrap up the podcast today with a prayer that befits the situation that we're in.
Oh, Holy Lord, we need your help. We need your truth. You're a just God. Laws and orders of men fail to see this injustice of our times. Help us, Lord, we pray. Protect us against the danger and the corruption of our times, that hate for you and this false prophets of our day that want to put down everything that is good, and these foolish religions and false ideologies of the religious far left and other parts of the world as well. These people who hate and murder, these people who would have us either convert or die. And I pray, Lord God, bring us courage and bring us justice now and forever. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, my dear, dear friend back in Tennessee, where when they get a thunderstorm, they get a thunderstorm. And our segment called Why Not God? Pastor Alex Lissow and his lovely wife, Barb. God bless you, and we'll look forward to next Wednesday. Thank you, Alex.
You bet. Thank you very much. And send me the Gray Wolf package. I'm ready to join.
All right, buddy, I will, and I'll be in touch. Thank you so much. That's going to do it for
God bless
today
you.
on our podcast, and I just want to remind everybody, zeb@theranch@hotmail.com. That's our email to send anything you'd like for information for this podcast, and don't forget to tune in, zebbell.com. I'm joking, Don. John, help me. Woo, that hurt. Dr. History's laughing. zebbell.com, and sign up for my weekly blog, Cow Pies and Coffee Cups. But that's going to do it for today. God bless you and your family, and God bless America. We'll see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time.